and other hardships, and carry on the work that we do.
Amen.
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 Thank you.
Excellent.
Can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streamed.
And Greg Miley. And I would really like to thank you for the time that you're giving. Wayne has done this before. He will be our head judge. Our contestants are Brianna Rose Bayens, Sally Baker, and Diana DeJesus did not make it this morning, Alex Delgado, Eunice Lee, Tara Sanders, Heather Smith, and Mark Vega. The speeches need to be from 4 to 5 minutes, and I want to show this to our contestants. So you will get a starting signal from Eric. There he is. He will tell you when to start. At 3 minutes and 30 seconds, he's going to hold this up. This tells you that you have 30 seconds to the time that you need to meet, and you've entered that zone where you can be and not lose points. At 4 minutes, he will hold this up. At 4 minutes, you're safe. At 4 minutes and 30 seconds, this is really a warning, you got 30 seconds to go. And here is 5 minutes, and that is stop. Do you have any questions? The essence is it's a 4 to 5 minute speech with a 30-second warning. Our first place, and there's a first, second, and third, will go on to the area contest on March 26th for District 5320, and then the final district contest on April 16th. And with that, we'll go ahead and begin. So our first contestant is Miss Brianna Rose Bayens. And Eric, I will bring you
Are you ready? You can begin.
Hi, my name is Brianna Vans, and to be completely honest with everyone, I was not planning on speaking today. When I committed to the speech contest, everything was great. I was healthy, well rested, and my life was under control. But things haven't really gone as planned for me this past week, and I told Dr. Bartram that I didn't think I could make it today. We had a really long talk, and we talked about commitment, stress, and time management. And she convinced me that I could do it. Dr. Bartram had confidence in me, and she believed in me. That's a very small and personal example of how we begin to build. First, parents build families. Next, people build friendships. Then, citizens build communities. Also, leaders build governments. But behind every example I listed, the human spirit builds everything. It might help if I expand on each of my examples to better understand. First, parents build families. You know, it all starts at home. That's where a child first learns what building is. For example, building a house out of Legos. And next, through lessons and connections with their parents and siblings. In my family, one of our traditions was serving Thanksgiving dinner to the homeless on Thanksgiving Day. My parents, like many service-oriented people, instilled in me and my brothers the importance of giving back to our world. Our parents are our first and primary caregivers who nurture our unique human spirit. Second, people build friendships. Once you leave home, you go to school. School is like your first job. Your teachers and classmates help expand your definition of building by working in groups, sharing, helping others, and of course, learning. One can never underestimate the value of a good friend, and many of our earliest memories of friendship and the spirit of giving are rooted in our school memories. Friendship, camaraderie, and teamwork contribute to that feeling we get when everyone works towards a common goal. At Villa Park High School, there are a variety of ways to volunteer and make a difference both inside and outside our community. Through clubs on campus like Make-A-Wish and Red Cross, you can donate countless hours serving to our community. Third, citizens building communities. As we mature, we begin to understand the deeper meaning of what it means to build your character, your reputation, and to build meaningful connections through service, dedication, and hard work. We learn through our churches, clubs, extracurricular activities, and organizations like Rotary about building authentic relationships and about developing and nurturing your humanitarian spirit so that you can live a more meaningful life in your community and beyond. I think it's amazing to see the business model of Give One, Get One growing in today's economy. Has anyone heard of Tom's Shoes? Tom's is a company that makes and sells shoes. They operate on Give One, Get One model. So for every pair of shoes you buy, they donate one to a child who doesn't have one around the world. We start out by being citizens of our communities and grow to become citizens in the world. Lastly, leaders build governments. Leaders set examples for all of us. They inspire us to be the best that we can be. Leaders organize us so we can accomplish great achievements. They have the ability to reach out to the human spirit and bring out the best in all of us. Many of the prominent leaders of this time have urged our state and local communities to give back and help others. We have witnessed natural disasters in recent years that have inspired our federal government to provide and support recovery. Recent current events are exemplifying how small our world is becoming. You can donate to earthquake relief in Haiti just by texting on your cell phone. You can reach out to people and organizations all over the world through the internet. These are just a few ways that technology is affecting how we can bridge continents in small but meaningful ways. Ultimately, our hope is to make a difference in other people's lives, in our communities, and throughout the world. The only way to accomplish these goals is through giving, inspiring, helping, and by serving those near and far. And how does this unfold for each one of us? First, parents build families. Next, people build friendships. Then, citizens build communities, and leaders build governments. And never forget, the human spirit builds everything. We all have the potential to strengthen communities and build hope around the world one step at a time. I encourage you to challenge yourself, just like Dr. Bartram challenged me to speak today, to make a difference in your lifetime. Be a builder by committing yourself to meaningful community and international service projects. Be a builder by building a family, building friendships, reaching out to your immediate community and the world in which we live. Be a leader and build a business or participate in government. The act of giving of yourself, your time, your service, that's what builds things, and that's what bridges continents. Thank you for listening.
Our next contestant is Miss Sally Baker. Sally.
Are you ready?
Yes.
You may begin.
We don't smile because it's expected, and we don't laugh because we can't cry. We don't look up at the sky and think it's always just beyond our reach. As a child, nothing seems impossible, and the future is just one teddy bear away. And smiles, well, they seem limitless. A little child stares up at the sky at the hopes that one day they can fly with the birds and when they get tired, take a nap on a cloud. From childhood to adult, smiles grace our pathway. Smiles filled with joy and smiles filled with sorrow. From corner to corner, a smile seems to stretch on forever, promising great and simple things. A community, a nation, and a world are all built on this one simple building block, a smile. From the flip-flops of California to the cowboy boots of Texas, people come together through the gesture of a smile. Building trust, love, and hope in a community is not always by the human hands, but by the human heart. When it starts in the heart, suddenly the hands become willing too. It starts with one sparkle of willingness, one person who raises their hand and says, "I'll do it." And then slowly, one by one, others raise their hands and it becomes, "We'll do it." I used to wonder as a child how just one person can make a difference, could build up an area and make people smile. I remember when I was just a little girl in elementary school. I used to cross this big crosswalk where my mom would be waiting to pick me up on the other side. The crosswalk guard always amazed my young mind, and I wondered why in the world she wanted to walk across the street over and over again every day. I saw the smiling faces of my friends as we were led safely across the street to where our happy parents were waiting. And now I realized that the crosswalk guard was just a little nudge from smile to smile. To cross that road was treacherous and even dangerous for little kids. She made it safe. We were never scared when that big stop sign let people know we were crossing. The smiles that came as a result of her beamed brightly, illuminating a community that was working because of individuals like her. And so, from school teacher to postman, to the man that daily waves at us on our way to school, the community is built one block at a time. A framework made up of selfless and caring individuals, knitting together a little quilt, community for the entire world to see. We live in a world of emotion, language, and beauty, yet often people fail to understand the similarities between us just because we look different or we talk differently. Every single one of us has something unique to offer to this little sphere we call our home. It isn't always in what meets the eye, and in fact, it usually isn't. But what you will find in the emotions of the world is a sense of hope and the strength of a smile. I've noticed that happiness is a universal language, and a smile truly is contagious. Over the summer, I traveled to a foreign country, trying to immerse myself entirely in the culture. Oftentimes, I had no clue as to what was being said around me, or what I was supposed to say in response. So I found myself nodding and smiling, a lot. The streets that I walked on were sprinkled with beggars, and in their eyes I saw pain. It was like a story they had written for the entire world to see, if only they would take the time to read. A smile seemed to extend a hand in kindness to them, and softly they would smile back. I'll never forget the sparkle in the eyes of a little boy sitting beside his mother, and what I saw in his little smile. In a land where I felt so much like a stranger, he made me feel like I understood. The little emotion reflected on that child's face made me feel connected. And as quickly as it came, it was gone. A little emotion, a little bridge that had connected our two worlds. I don't think that people who see beauty in the world are optimistic. I just think they live life with their eyes open. Every day, we choose shapes and colors to put on our little piece of blue and green felt, little pieces of ourselves for all the world to see. We have an endless supply of colors, and it's our job to choose which one to dip our paintbrush in. The colors of a community can influence the colors of the world, and together, we paint a rainbow. The smiles of a child, a grandparent, a mother, all add to the collection of smiles that make the man in the moon grin down at us each night. So smile, for the whole world smiles along with you. Thank you.
I still got it.
You may begin.
It feeds off the segregation, mental, spiritual, moral, racial, human. A fiend privy to the weaknesses of man, the ever-present fears of the mysterious, the transparent barriers, the brittle infrastructure of conquest on which such selfish desires thrive, survive, overcome it with untainted kindness, with bonds of unity, of kinship, interwoven into the seams of a prosperous, brighter quilt of tomorrow, a tomorrow we must prepare for today. It is essential that we, as a people, stop treading our own recycled misery before we drown in a sea of masochism. Trial and error has proven what fails at advancing humanity and what actually succeeds. Division and hate are the most prolific failures that yield no positive results. Only wars, crimes, fear, and tension result. Sadly, the list goes on, written in the blood and tears of souls lost to separation. Through vicarious living, universal improvements will remain as attainable goals. Brief stints of peace illuminate the extensive possibilities of what can be achieved through cultural, racial, religious, and world unity. Avoidable tensions continue to plague our already divided world. What is the preferred method of solving it? Senseless violence and harsh words. We're trying to treat a simple flesh wound by stabbing at it. Logical. Race, religion, and geographical positioning serve as disdain-causing barriers when they should instead remind us that our vast differences serve as advantages. As separate groups, our resources are limited, but as one entity, weaknesses are covered and transformed into strengths. The days of fooling ourselves into believing that others will solve the problems that poison and affect our lives must come to an end. This change begins with the willingness to understand other viewpoints, continues with the realization that not all thoughts will mirror our own, evolves into an appreciation for diversity, and results into a tolerable world. one devoid of the first-degree massacre of innocence, imagination, and security. Changes begin with one person, a single individual dedicated to a cause. Gandhi, Martin Luther King Jr., St. Francis of Assisi, Mark Twain, and countless other beings strive to evolve the world into a place where people would not be haunted by the gnawing concern that they would have to suppress their desire to carry out their most basic right, existing. Although it only takes one to begin a chant for change, more voices are needed to carry the chant around the world. When the time comes, millions of voices will be felt singing one song in harmonized unison, not out of tune, in the wrong pitch, or with the wrong lyrics, but together. The future exists as an ever-changing model of clay, hardening and becoming more difficult to sculpt with passing flames of experience and the relentless will of time. Friendship and acceptance coat the model, defending it against a sandstorm of erosion that is comprised of hate, division, and fear. A question remains posed. Are you satisfied with this distorted sculpture which will represent our generation, the final testament to our aspirations and accomplishments? I can honestly say that I am not. But our time to change for the better is dwindling fast. Sadly, we do not possess the luxury of restarting our lives whenever we please. But we do have the power to band together and give later generations the opportunity to live as one continent. There are only so many times that the world's hourglass can be turned before there's nothing left to wait for. Thank you.
Ready?
Yeah.
Begin.
Thank you. America, the land of hope and opportunity. We, or our parents or grandparents, or any of our ancestors, have come to America seeking the American dream. This is the reason so many people refer to America as a melting pot, where a myriad of different cultures are assimilated and fused together to create a harmonious whole. Yet, is assimilation really that harmonious? Is it desirable? I am here today to say that it is not desirable. It is not harmonious. It does not preserve the myriad of cultures that make up America, and it destroys the cultures that make America the part of the world that is composed of different immigrants. Assimilation did not work for Native Americans. When the Westerners from the European settlers moved into the West from the East, they pushed off Americans off the Appalachian Mountains into the Great Plains. And breaking treaty after treaty, the government kicked the Americans out of their land and onto a new area, only to kick them out of there only a few decades later. With the American reservation system becoming used, assimilation and learning to walk on the white man's road became the main solution when dealing with Native Americans. In 1887, the Dawes Severalty Act that authorized the president to break up the tribal lands into different allotments that gave different families their spot of land, destroyed the Native American culture. The tribe is an inherent part of the Native American culture in the Dawes Act, and its attempt to white man-ize the Native Americans by turning the tribe into nuclear families destroyed the Indian culture that had been preserved for centuries. So much of the culture was lost, and it was only in the 1930s when the Dawes Act was reversed by the Indian Reorganization Act that Indian self-government was promoted, and the government, at last celebrating the uniqueness of Indian cultures, promised to preserve the Indian languages, arts, and traditions. Everyone knows the popularity of jazz in the Roaring '20s, and what about the hip-hop and rap that is popular nowadays? These pop cultures have originated from African American cultures in America, and which dates back to African music. When blacks arrived in the U.S., and when they worked on the plantations in the South, they sang songs with the kind of music that they brought from their homeland in Africa, which turned into the blues, then jazz. Hip-hop's roots can be dated back all the way to African music, or the griots of West Africa, who were wandering poets and singers had vocal styles that are similar to that of rappers today. Black people, by preserving their culture and even during slavery in the U.S., created uniqueness that affects everyone in the U.S. today. And I am an immigrant myself, and I came here when I was 7 years old. And the thing that most amazed me about America was the multiculturality that allowed me to experience all parts of the world in one part of the world. And after the homogeneity of Korea, it was truly amazing to me to see that so many different cultures from different ethnic groups and religious groups made up America. When I went to the mall, I was giddy to see so many selections of different foods and to choose from: Italian pasta, Hawaiian barbecue, Chinese food, Mexican tacos that I had never tasted before. Even now, I enjoy delicious Mexican food at fiestas with my friends, and an Italian family of ours has us over for dinner frequently. I share Korean food with my friends as well, and they insist that my mom's California rolls are the best. If all immigration were required to be assimilated, would we have this diversity of cultures here in America? Many of the friends that I have mentioned are second generation, third generation Americans, yet they have preserved the culture of their ancestors. When building our communities, we must keep in mind the uniqueness of every culture and strive to preserve the difference between each culture that allows us to learn so much from one another. In this preservation of unique cultures, not only do we create a heterogeneous society that can only be described as utterly and truly American, but we bridge continents together when we keep good connections with every part of the world. And Irish Americans, Korean Americans, Indian Americans, and Peruvian Americans connect with their family back at home. Those tendrils that spread out from America today, which connects us to different nations, must be strengthened in order for us to do our duty as the peacekeepers of the world. Thank you.
So, building communities and bridging continents. Now, I first got this theme and I was like, where do I even begin? There's so many topics I can hit off of with just this one theme. And then I realized to really build up these communities and bridge these continents, it starts with our own selves. You know, becoming aware of our own inner motives and then branching out to our community, becoming aware of those in our community and focusing on their needs, and ultimately becoming a leader in our community. Now, starting with our own selves, I think that we should take pride in how we present ourselves to others, to our older and younger generations, especially our younger generations. We are the ones setting the examples for them. They're going to look up to us and see what we do and aspire to do what we do. So I hope that we can be courteous and kind and humble and helping and giving to them. And then it's doing something more and moving on and having motivation to do something bigger than our own selves. And what that means to me is putting aside my own needs and my own wants and my own problems and focusing on somebody else who isn't having a good time and helping them out for a change, which lets me move on to my next point of being aware of others and their needs. So I'm starting to drive, and my mom's a little bit nervous about that for various reasons. And one of them being that I'm a bit of a daydreamer, and you know, I can't be focusing on the pretty scenery around me and what's playing in the car, but I need to be focusing on, you know, me as a driver, other drivers around me, what they're doing, what type of drivers they are, and I think that rule extends far beyond the road. We need to be, as a community, aware of others in our community, what's going on with them, what needs need to be taken action. And I think with an unbiased understanding, we can really step in and help in with issues like poverty, hunger, violence in the environment with practical and logical solutions once we know what's going on around us. And then we can be a functioning community. The next step is to be a leader. To me, being a leader sets the examples for others to follow. You know, it's someone who can keep that strong, you know, and confident attitude when times are tough. And right now in this tough economy, I understand it's hard. I see my mother struggle, I see my friends' parents struggle, and I know it's hard to, you know, keep an uplifting attitude in times like this. You know, and sometimes that's what people need to build a community and bridge continents, is having relationships and ties with people that they feel they can trust and go to. And I just think that's all part of being a leader. And then the other night, while I was doing my chem homework, I was watching The Daily Show. Sorry, Dr. Bartram. And, you know, I reluctantly put down that invigorating chem homework and decided to watch The Daily Show. And, you know, it aired January 31st of this year, and Jon Stewart had Bill Gates on that he was interviewing Bill Gates for. And Bill Gates and a group of people went out and they were dealing in areas like Nigeria, Pakistan, Afghanistan, and India, helping to prevent polio disease. And so Bill Gates is up there talking about polio disease and how it's so hard, you know, to really do this. And Jon Stewart goes on to ask, you know, who the main funders are. Of course, Bill Gates being one of the biggest, and the U.S. government being the biggest, donating around $1 billion. And Bill Gates goes on to say, and I quote, "Rotary International is incredible. They have donated about the same." And to me, that just was the most wonderful thing to hear, that here I'm hearing about Rotary International on national television when I hear about it in my local community, at my school, in the Villa Park Center. And to me, like, the people that are involved in this Rotary group going out and helping, they had to start with their own selves, and they had to say, hey, I need to do something bigger than myself. They became aware of others and their needs in countries across the globe, and they went out and they were a leader, and they are really helping to prevent this. And to me, that's what being a leader, that's what, you know, building communities and bridging continents is, becoming aware of our own selves and our own motives, being aware of others and focused on them, and then being a leader. So thank you for your time.
Speech, I was a little bit confused, because I was thinking, what can I talk about building communities and bridging continents, since I've never been out of the country and I'm not very experienced with international subjects. And then I thought about the community that we all live in. Community is like a bridge, and each of us are a brick within the community. We're all connected, and we all support the people that walk over it each day. There's 3 different types of bricks. There's the brick that's on the corner of the bridge that feels like no one sees it. Yeah, it touches a couple bricks, but overall it feels like it's not important. It's not supporting most of the bridge. There's the brick that's frail, it's been there for a really long time and it's falling apart. It feels like I can't support the bridge. I've been here too long. I'm useless. And then there's the brick that's in the center of the bridge. Every day, people walk over it, high heels, sneakers, little kids dropping ice cream on it. And yet somehow, that brick says, hey, look it, if I can have people walk over me every day, I think that you guys can help support the rest of this bridge. That cornerstone that I mentioned earlier, the first brick, is like the teenager that they help a few people. They try their best to make their friends feel better about themselves. They give someone a pat on the back, but they feel like they're not contributing to their community. If each person is equal in a community, in the world, then those people are just as important as the people in other countries that need food, clothing, shelter, water. Because you can't just help people physically, you have to help them emotionally. And oftentimes that's what people need. That frail brick represents the damaged people. They feel like, I can't help anyone. I have too many cracks. I am empty. I can't help anyone. I have too many bad experiences in my past to be able to move forward and help people around me. And those center stones are very rare. They're the people that look at those stones and say, you know what? You can do this. Oftentimes people that are damaged, they need a little pat on the back. They need some encouragement. They need someone to say, you know what? I know that you've had many bad experiences. I know that I will never fully understand each trial that you've been through. But I can say this. I have faith in you, and I believe in you. And I know that if you set your mind to it, you can help anyone around you. I'm glad that we're focusing on international subjects such as helping people in Nigeria and China and Africa and people that need essentials. But what about the people that are next to us every day? Often teenagers, we think on this grand scale of helping tons of people at the same time and giving food and clothing and shelter and helping the homeless, and that is so important. But what about the kid that sits alone at lunch, that looks at all these